This podcast is sponsored by Aleppo Restaurant on Wonderland Road North and A. Miller George Funeral Home, where each life is celebrated, and their sister company, Cremation London and Middlesex, both family owned and operated.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever and wherever you may be listening. We welcome you back to another edition of the Vicars Crossing podcast, our last one for 2019.
Wow, where'd the year go?
The Vicars Crossing is a virtual space where faith intersects with the public square. And my name is Rob Henderson, and I'm the priest and pastor and sometimes janitor at Holy Trinity St. Stephen's Memorial Anglican Church.
Good for you.
A new title.
Had some cleaning up to do earlier today.
Nicely done.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes, so I'm Kevin George. I'm the priest, rector, pastor, and sometimes bottle washer, sometimes shoveler. You know, I shovel a lot of stuff.
It's in the description.
It's in the description and other duties as required. But I'm Kevin George, St. Aidan's Church. Glad to be here. We have a frosted-headed guy here, too.
That's right. Who's this guy?
I also have a name. My name is Ian, and I produce this podcast. Yeah.
All right, so the boys are back in town. We're on Facebook Live once again, so we want to say hi to everybody tuned in
Hello,
on Facebook.
everybody.
If you'd like to shout out a comment or say hi or shoot
give
off
us
a
a buzz.
question for Ask Ian anything, we do have one that was submitted.
Yep.
But there's still time to throw that in live.
Yeah, anytime. We'll answer your questions live. We're like that.
And as you'll notice today, too, our Facebook guests will notice that we don't have a guest today.
No.
So today, for our last episode of 2019, we thought we'd do a bit of a year in review.
Ooh, it's like we're like a big program or something. 'Cause
Yeah,
you do that like TSN sort of
That's right.
year in review. Or,
Top 10 plays from the Vicars Crossing.
yeah, and then or if it's like I don't know if you're doing like remember the sitcoms used to have like a year in review.
Oh
and
yeah,
they,
oh yeah, yeah.
You know, they give flashbacks to all the.
Yep, that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna have flashbacks.
Be like I guess National their year in review program.
Yeah, exactly. Because we've had some exciting times
Yes, we have.
on our travels. Because
Yeah.
we did do some traveling.
We did travel.
Some moving
Yeah.
around. So
Yeah.
we'll get to that. Want to say hi to our sponsors always at the Vicars Crossing. Our good friends at Aleppo Restaurant, 666 Wonderland Road in London, and A. Miller George Funeral Home, where each life is celebrated, and their sister company, Cremation London and Middlesex, both family owned and operated.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, boys. So off we go. We're going to wrap up 2019. It was a good year.
It's weird to say that it's over.
Yeah. It's
Well,
coming
we're
to an
what?
end here.
What's the day today?
It's the 18th?
Yeah. 17th.
17th today.
So we're more than halfway through the month.
Yep.
Yeah.
Christmas is upon us next week.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
We've made Advent great again, or at least we've been trying.
Yeah, we have.
And then before we know it, it's a race to December 31st.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
it'll
People
all be
keep
over.
asking me what I'm going to be doing in 3 weeks. Like, I don't have 20/20 vision.
Oh dear.
Get it? Get it? See what I did there, boys?
Oh dear. Have you been hanging out with Rob Stevenson or something?
Yeah. It's crazy. Like, he lives in the same place as me.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
always on with
Kinda
the
weird.
puns. He's always on with the puns.
Yeah.
They're asking me what I'm going to be doing in 3 weeks, but I don't have 20/20
But I
vision.
don't have 20/20 vision.
20/20 vision.
That's nicely done.
Thank you. Appreciate
Better
that.
write that down, Ian.
Yep.
Yeah. That's you did well there. You did well.
So we're going to get into some silliness before we do our year in review.
Yeah.
And what do you want to do first? We got to ask Ian something, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
We got to do
Absolutely.
that. We got to do that. So, ladies and gentlemen, time once again for the last time in 2019. It's time for Ask Ian. Wow. In Robbie's mailbag, kind of like Santa's mailbag.
Oh yeah.
But I don't have boxes at all the malls. They
Right.
just kind of flow under my door.
They come underneath
Yeah,
the door.
they slip under the door when I'm working. Yeah. in the
Oh, that's
office.
pretty good.
So this question came from Tamara.
Oh.
Oh,
And Tamara's one of our
day
younger
after yesterday,
parishioners.
Tamara?
Yeah, Tamara. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh, this is getting worse. And she had a question for Ian. And the question was, Ian, since we're getting close to Christmas,
Yeah.
Ian, what's your favorite Christmas memory?
oh, now there's a good
That
one.
was a nice question.
It's a good question.
It's a very good
Your
question.
favorite Christmas memory? Could be from a family get-together or a moment at Christmas or a...
Huh. That's a good one. Wow, that's a stumper because there's so many.
He's got a lot of good memories.
Yeah, because it's like everyone's much more relaxed. Well, I guess relaxed because like everyone has so many things they need to do, but everyone's more cheerful, I guess, because they know that it's a time to be relaxed. I remember skating with my friends at Springbank Park in like negative 20 million degrees Celsius.
That's cold.
It was very cold.
When you hit the 20 million,
That's pretty chilly.
yeah, you need some extra socks in your skates.
Yeah. Like family Christmases at my grandparents' house.
Yeah.
Like they're always a riot because all of like the uncles from my dad's side get together, and there's so many of them. Like Christmas Eve with my mom's dad. Yeah, there's just like there's too many to count really because it's always I enjoy it.
That's a good sign.
Yeah.
You have any funny Christmas story or memory?
Yeah.
Or anything that-
Man, there's so many that come to mind. I like Ian. I think about one of the neat memories I have actually involves him recently, and then I'll tell a family story. But a couple of years ago, all of Donna's boys came out to church with him, as they usually do on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And we were singing, I think it's one of the Caribbean pieces out of the hymn book. Mary, some of it, Mary had a baby boy.
Mary's baby boy. Yeah.
And there's like a
baby boy. Yeah.
in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And these three lads got going, stamping their feet like crazy in the pew.
Oh, yeah.
It was like being at a rave. It was crazy.
The Christmas Eve rave.
It was a rave at St. Aidan's. It was nuts.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of memories that come back to me about Christmas in terms of family. There was this one year, I don't know if you remember, Bryan Adams released an album called Reggae Christmas.
Gosh.
And it was back in the 80s.
Wow.
And it was a little, we're having a reggae Christmas
Oh,
down in
yeah, yeah,
Jamaica.
yeah.
Okay.
We're
Yeah,
having
yeah,
a good
yeah.
time too. Anyway, my brother Daryl gave me the album, and I got a 45. And it was green. He was see-through, it was green. And we waited all through the year. It was on one side of the album, and Reggae Christmas was on the other side. And we all got into it one day. We used to get together on Boxing Day because my older siblings had their own kids, and they'd have their own Christmas Day. And then we'd all get together on Boxing Day. And we put on this Reggae Christmas, and I got a stereo that year for Christmas, was a part of the deal. Turntable and double cassette deck. It was pretty exciting.
Wow.
And we got playing this thing on bust, and then we all started. I mean, we may have been. I was too young to be lubricated, but my older siblings were getting lubricated, and we all started dancing around the house singing Reggae Christmas, and we ended up
nice.
in a whole line outside the house, across the yard to my brother's. My brother James's house, into his basement, and everybody going, "We're having a reggae Christmas."
Gosh, that's great.
It was nuts. A bunch of crazy white Newfoundlanders singing reggae Christmas. It was pretty funny.
Wow.
And then one of the earlier memories I have is I remember for the very brief time that I played in any organized hockey, I had 1 year in hockey, and I was terrible. And which was evidenced a couple years ago when I fell and hit my head and got a concussion. But I needed a pair of skates. I was using some hand-me-down skates, and we didn't get a lot of big gifts for Christmas in those days. But we'd all get something. We get that one gift, sort of.
Yeah.
And in those days, Orbits were big. Do you remember Orbits?
Yeah, I remember Orbits.
You wouldn't know about Orbits.
Isn't that a gum company also?
Well, it might be. But Orbit skates were molded skates.
Yes.
So they
Oh, gotcha.
They were hard molded plastic right up all the way around.
Yeah.
And it was a big thing in the day. And I wanted a pair of Orbits. I think I was in grade 2. And I needed them really because when I would put on regular skates, my ankles would go would twist
flop
in, twist
yeah.
in. So they got me these Orbits, and then the next time I went up to hockey practice up to Whitburn to what we call the stadium, the arena, I was so excited that I was skating around upright on my ankles because the Orbits wouldn't let my ankles anywhere hold me straight. So I always and I couldn't wait to show to people at the arena because I'd used them over on the pond. Like right away we got over on the pond and put them on and tried them out that afternoon.
That's
It was
awesome.
fun. What about you? You must have some.
Yeah.
Oh, there's lots, but the one story I was thinking about it today because we tell it every single year, and it comes from my dad's mom, my grandma, Grandma Marge, God rest her soul, who one Christmas, we always had big Christmas dinners back in the day because there were a lot more family around.
Yeah.
And there were at least 15 to 20 of us sitting around, and so she decided one night that she was going to make the traditional turkey dinner as always. But the big complaint always was by the time everybody got their plate and sat down, because we all waited for everybody to sit down, the food was cold, right?
Of course.
So she decided, well, you know what I'm going to do this year? I'm going to put all the plates in the oven and I'm going to warm them up. So when it's time, right? It's a good idea. So we had these warm plates, and they were brought out, and we started to put our food on them. Except that she forgot this year that she also decided that she wanted to serve, along with all the regular food, a Jello mold. So everybody started putting turkey and potatoes and turnip and everything on their plate, and then a splash of this purple Jello mold. Well,
Yeah.
on the warm plate,
Cold Jello.
so within about 15 seconds,
Everything was in a
it
soup.
was swimming in all the food was swimming in this purple sea of Jello. and my father is yelling, "Mother, what did you warm up the plates for?" Well, I didn't know. So it was a whole deal, and we were getting straws out to slurp all this
Oh, wow.
stuff off. But anyway, it was a funny story from years ago that we always remember. So
Church memories at all from Christmas?
Church memories. Yeah, the one that I always remember is that took place in Windsor. It was about when I was at St. James, Windsor. We were doing a Christmas morning service, and there were just a few people there. You don't get big crowds. We had maybe a dozen people. And there was one gentleman that came, and I didn't know who he was, and he kind of came in right when we started and sat near the back. And by the end of the service, he was crying. I went back to talk to him, and he told me that he is a pastor, and he was from the Thunder Bay area or something, and came down. He did his evening service at Thunder Bay, and then drove all night to come to Windsor to see his family, and just decided to get up early because everybody was sleeping and come to church. He was
Christmas
in the
Day?
neighborhood. Yeah. And he was crying, and he said to me, "This is the first time in 25 years I've been able to come and sit on Christmas morning and
Wow.
just worship." And it was so powerful for him.
Wow.
Wow.
And it really hit me, right? It really hit me. And so when sometimes people would say, why do you do the Christmas morning service? You only get 7 people.
Yeah.
And I always point to that and say, that's why.
That's why.
Because you don't know.
Yeah.
Right? You open that space up.
Yeah.
Which to me is often, that's the Christmas story. That's that morning. You open that space up for the Word to become flesh.
That's really something, though, isn't it?
And it was a very
Talk about
moving moment,
incarnating
yeah.
the love of God.
Exactly.
Like it came right
Yeah,
into him there.
Yeah, and
What about you, Ian? You have a church memory or what?
Yeah, actually. So in Hosanna's, my old
Yep.
church,
Yep.
is now a spa. Fun fact.
It is. You can get liposuction. You can get. I noticed, not for any specific reason. You can get some Botox put in, but I'll be going there for a massage very soon.
Yeah. So old church, but one of the things that I used to do, I used to take piano lessons, and one of the things I would do every year was play "Away in a Manger" during the Christmas Eve. What are they called?
Service, yeah.
Yeah, service. Yeah,
Service.
And I think, and during we would also put on a play.
Oh yeah, like a pageant.
Yeah, that sort of the Christmas story kind of play.
Yeah.
And I would play during that also. So
did you wear your bathrobe?
You almost have to wear
All
your
the kids
bathrobe.
wear their bathrobes because they're all shepherds.
Everybody's a shepherd.
Everybody's
You gotta wear
walking in with a
and
bathrobe.
everybody knows that shepherds in the Middle East wore bathrobes.
Sure they did. Yeah.
no, I was a pianist.
blue and-
with Kermit the Frog on
Kermit
it,
the Frog.
apparently. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Well, my memory actually is Christmas Day too, as well. I don't mean like the second, like the sequel, Christmas Day, the sequel.
Yeah.
And that would be similar to what you were talking about in terms of the Christmas Day and the possibilities in it. And it was also in Windsor. It was at St. Mark's by the Lake. And we had a couple come to me in the fall, late fall, asking me about a baptism for their little guy. And we decided we'd do the baptism on Christmas Day. And we used to make a thing of Christmas Day down there. I used to funnily say there's a gift for the first 50 people in the door get a free gift. I still do this as a tongue-in-cheek, and I always say, I have the best gift this year. It's a door crasher.
This is the best gift.
Nobody gives a gift like I give a gift. I give the best gifts. Nobody knows how to give a gift like I give a gift. Anyway, I was in a construction trailer in the parking lot because we were building the church at
Yeah,
the
I
time.
remember that. Yeah.
So I'll never forget where it happened. I'm sitting in there, and this couple is sitting in front of me, and we've done the work for their baptism. And she says, "I'm going to ask you something now, and I'm pretty sure you're going to say no." And I said, "Well, I mean, if that's a
Try me.
challenge,
Yeah.
if that's a challenge." And she said, "Well, I just can't see you saying yes to this, but I got up this morning, and this has been on my mind, and we talked about it, and I thought, when we come in today, I'm going to ask you, even if you say no." I said, "Well, go ahead and ask me." And she said, "Well, this was their, I can't remember now if it was their second or third child, but they weren't married, And they had a family that were sort of dispersed across the West and in different places. And a number of people were driving home from Alberta for the baptism. So she said, "I'm wondering if at the baptism, if we can be married."
Ooh, wow.
And so I sat there.
Yeah, there's a new one.
And I thought, wow, what do I do with this? And she's already predicted I'm going to say no. So
She put you in a box.
She did. But then I spent some time, I said, just let me think about this for a minute. And what I was thinking about was, what would be a good reason to say no to this?
Oh, that's a wow.
What possible good could come from saying no?
Saying no, yeah.
What will I be achieving if I say no to this?
Yeah, that's a good question. to
How
ask
will I
yourself.
be, who am I protecting if I say no to this?
Yeah. Or what am I protecting?
Yeah, what am I protecting? And the answer was I couldn't come up with a good reason. So I looked at her after a minute or so and I said, you know what, Liz, let's do it. But I said, you're telling me, she said, yeah, I don't. And she explained to me that what she wanted to do was nobody would know.
Yeah.
So I said, we're not telling anybody. And she said, that's right. So I said, we're not telling anybody. So I realized this could get you in trouble with bishops, because you're doing some stuff here that's sort of outside the realm of the regular.
Which
but
answers your question, but.
Yeah, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I said, no, we're going to do this. But I said, we are going under the understanding that nobody but the three of us know about this. She said, that's right. So Christmas Day came, and we had about 110 people in church. We used to make a big deal of Christmas Day at St. Mark's by the Lake. And she came in. She was wearing a very lovely white dress for her baptism, like very lovely, far, far nicer than you might wear for your kid's baptism. Yeah. But nonetheless, it wasn't a wedding dress. Gotcha. And they were there, and all the family had arrived. Some had driven overnight, just like you're talking about. They'd driven like 3 days or 2 days, whatever it is, to get in from Fort Mac or wherever they are out there. And most of the people in church were parishioners, and we were sitting there, and we did the baptism. And at the end of church, where we do the announcements, I asked the two of them to come up. I said, we had a beautiful baptism today. I said, I just wonder if I can get mom and dad to come up. We just want to congratulate you. And they came and they stood up, and they faced each other, and they took each other's hands. And then all of a sudden, the whole room gasped all at once.
Yeah, they get it. Yeah.
And the tears just started to flow out of everybody.
Yeah.
And right then, they exchanged vows, right there, and they got married.
Yeah.
And the whole place went away so full of joy and the incarnated love of God that they'd come to church on Christmas Day, they'd experienced a baptism and a wedding, and they had communion, and they sang their Christmas carols, and it was just a beautiful day. Yeah. And it was all for the sake of doing something that I was supposed to say no to.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But it was a great Christmas.
What a great unexpected gift for everybody, right? Not just the couple, but for everybody that was there that day. Yeah. Good.
Wow.
All right, speaking of Christmas, we're going to do our music morsel real quick here.
All right.
Yeah.
And so I've got a song ready to go.
Is this
here.
a Christmas edition?
This is a Christmas song. So
Yes, I also have a Christmas song.
Oh, this is the
so
Christmas.
it's a Christmas
we could have
edition.
picked the same one, We didn't really
Wouldn't
talk
that be
about
funny?
this before.
That'd be crazy.
So we're going to give this a shot. You ready, Ian?
Always.
Okay, I'll try to.
Don't give him more than 12 seconds, eh?
No, I'm going to give him short because
Give him
I'm not
short,
actually sure how
Don't
this
even
starts.
give him that. Don't even give him that. Don't even give him that.
Okay, here we go.
Oh God.
Come on.
Yeah,
Come on, you got to get that.
No, I know it. I do know
You're
it.
singing that in your sleep.
Here Comes Santa Claus by.
Oh, well, now.
There's only 500.
There's like a
versions.
thousand artists.
500, but that's like the one that they play constantly, right?
Yes.
So it's like someone like Bing
Yeah.
Crosby or like someone the one of the bigger names, not like
You know the name?
yeah.
Fred Astaire.
No.
Who is it?
Burl.
Oh, Burl Ives. Here we go, everybody. Sing along if you're at home. Here we go. Here comes Santa Claus, right down Santa Claus Lane.
Vixen and Vixen and all his reindeers pulling on the rein.
Larry Edwards says, too bad Rob doesn't have some radio experience.
That's right. Yeah.
Hey, Larry, we got 2 words for you. Merry Christmas.
That's actually not. It's not Burl Ives.
No, who is it?
Who is
That's
it?
Gene Autry.
It's Gene Autry, folks.
See?
Yeah.
But you got the song right. That's
Hello,
what
Heather
we're
Martin.
looking
Heather Martin's watching now, too.
for. Hi, Heather.
Hi, Heather. All right.
Okay, Ian, shoot. Give us a Christmas.
Let's see if Ian can stump us on a Christmas song.
Yeah. Here we go.
On the streets where I was raised,
That's not a
I was like a sheep and I grazed. I ate the grass. I passed some gas.
And that's my Christmas song.
Who the hell is this?
No, it is a Christmas song.
Like a real Christmas song?
Yeah, for real.
For reals?
For reals.
I've never heard it. So
It's called Merry Christmas Caledonia, and it's by Johnny Reed.
Merry Christmas Caledonians. Do they even have Christmas in Caledonia?
Okay. See, we don't know this. This is too new for us.
This is way too
Really? I didn't know when this came out.
Was
Well,
it-
you wanted a modern song.
The 80s? That's really new.
So, okay, here's a question. Favorite Christmas song or carol?
Favorite Christmas song or carol?
Yeah.
I'll Be Home.
I was gonna say that.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah.
Is there an artist that sings it that's your favorite?
Karen Carpenter.
Ah.
Oh, all right.
Remember the Carpenter
Yeah,
Christmas
that's
album?
very
that
good.
was the album that was always on when I was a kid.
Right. For us, it was one of the ones we heard a lot was Boney M.
Oh,
Seemed to
yeah,
play a
Boney
lot
M.
through the
Yeah,
80s.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
What about you? Favorite Christmas song?
I like I'll Be Home for Christmas is dope. But I think
It's dope.
also what is the Merry Xmas War is Over, the Sarah McLachlan version.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good song, too.
Yeah.
Mine is the what is it called of New York?
Oh, by the Pogues.
By the Pogues,
Fairy
yeah.
Tale of New York.
Fairy
Yeah,
Tale of New York.
That's
Yeah,
also a
that's
good
good,
one.
yeah.
She's handsome. She's pretty.
You want to talk about Christmas songs? Like I find the Pogues' Fairy Tale of New York very similar to Christmas in Caledonia. If you like,
Is it? Well, it actually
Yeah.
was thinking of that when I heard that.
Yeah.
And I think my very favorite all time though, in terms of songs, is
Yeah.
Snoopy's Christmas.
Snoopy's Christmas, yeah.
I love the Red Baron.
Yeah.
Worst Christmas song ever? I
Yeah.
heard it yesterday. Dominic the Donkey.
What?
Hey, worst Christmas song ever.
Really?
You
Dominic
listeners on
the
Facebook,
Donkey.
what's your favorite? Let's hear them.
Yeah,
we
let's-
got Beth
yeah.
McKinley. Beth McKinley. She says she didn't realize you were that old because you were playing not Burl Ives. Who was the guy?
Oh, Gene Autry.
Gene Autry. Well, Rob is pretty old.
Yeah,
Beth.
pretty old, Beth. You should know that.
He's
You
so
have my
old.
birthday marked in your calendar. don't
He's
you? 'Cause
Rob
I got
is.
a gift this year.
Do you know how old Rob is, Ian?
No,
No, you're supposed to say how old. Do you know how old is Rob?
How old, Kevin?
He's so old.
Yeah.
He's so old he farts dust. So
Wow.
that's old.
Now, the doctor is trying to change my diet.
He's working on it, eh?
Well, let's just take a few minutes and look back on the year. This is
Yeah.
a year in review show.
Yeah.
So it started in January. That's a shocker.
Yeah.
I know,
Wow.
with our
Is that when the year
our
starts
first
now?
Show, yeah, it starts in January.
That's a new
now. With our first show of the year. And you remember we had John Davidson on.
John, my
to
gosh,
talk
yeah, our
about
good
his
friend
walk
John
across
Davidson.
Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. I'd never met John before. Obviously, you knew him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I knew John from the media and from the stories and his story. And so that was a treat to be able to hear him and learn more about what that story was and a little bit more about what's happened since, because it's been a while since he did his walk. And
Yeah. Over 20 years now.
Yeah.
for Duchesne's and all the advancements that have taken place over the course of
And the
years
millions
since
and
that.
millions of
all
dollars
the
there.
dollars raised.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the hope
Oh.
given to families and
What about you, Ian? What was your impression meeting John or getting to know John a little bit?
He was wonderful. He was a really nice guy. He gave me his book later.
Yeah.
And
me too.
I was
got
reading
one.
it. It's
Yeah.
like it's very
was a good
such a
read.
cool story. And he's super. I don't know, like what? Yeah, he's just like, I don't want to call him a celebrity, like, because like I don't know.
He's a local celebrity.
Yeah,
I think
but
we
it's
can
like
say
he's
that.
super like he's super down to earth and so like personable. Yeah.
And what struck me about that book was reading the one-on-one stories he had with people that he met.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about the walk and all the money it raised and all that kind of stuff. It was
Yeah.
the encounters he had from out of the blue, from things totally unexpected,
Right.
generosity of
And his
people,
inner
the
thoughts,
small
too.
moments,
Yeah.
his inner thoughts, and those little
Yeah.
things that kind of kept him going on that journey. And it was a great
Yeah.
metaphor for, I thought, a faith journey. Right? Those
Absolutely.
small little things that happen once in a while to sustain and give you hope and push you on to the next kilometer or whatever it is. And
Yeah, and
it
John
was
is,
really neat read.
in his own way, has found a way to manifest his own faith in action, right? Mm-hmm. And that's pretty cool. I actually, interestingly, was at a funeral on Saturday, just this past Saturday. And when I walked in, it was a parishioner here. It's her mother was quite elderly, in her 90s, had died. And when I went in, I saw John Davidson, and I wouldn't have connected John to this family. And
Right.
so I said, "Oh, John, do you want to sit with us?" He said, "No, I can't sit here. I got to sit up in front. I have to talk today." And I thought, how the heck is John connected to this family? So this woman who was known as Noni, or Winona was her name, she was well known out in a small community here outside of town. And when John got up and talked again, like you go into what you said about those stories of people he met. So in Newfoundland, I had my old friend Ed Smith, God rest his soul, used to say he was world famous in Newfoundland because Ed was a columnist and a writer, and everybody knew Ed in Newfoundland. So he'd say, "I'm world famous in Newfoundland." Well, I think John Davidson is world famous here in London, and so the story was, and he got up and he spoke about her, that this Noni was really, she followed their every step from when he pushed Jesse around Ontario to when he did his own walk. And when he came into, I believe it might have been either Strathroy or here, I can't remember now which, but it might have been Strathroy, she was there to greet him and see him and all that. And she just thought it was the greatest thing. And then a few years later, when they started the walk in the Springbank Park every year, she showed up at the park. And she would walk that thing every year in her elder years, right up until she wasn't able to do it anymore. And he tells a story about a woman giving him a blanket that she had knit to keep Jesse warm when he was pushing him around Ontario. And last year, at one point, he asked Catherine, Noni's daughter, who's the parishioner here, how her mom was doing. And she said she's doing okay, but, sometimes she talks a lot about being cold. And John went home, dug out the blanket, and he said, "I think I know where this blanket needs to go." Yeah. And he gave it to Catherine and had it given to her up at the home. Okay. And it was really special up in the visitation afterwards to see this blanket with Jesse's journey on it. And this was all hand done by this woman for Jesse. And then he gifted it on to this woman. But again, it was another one of those individual stories of someone he met along the way.
Yeah. No, those are great. Powerful.
Yeah. John's a great guy.
Power in those stories. Yeah.
Hello, Alex Strong. Alex is watching. I'm just monitoring all the people on Facebook.
Oh, okay. That's all
Brilliant.
Right. Yeah. We had a chat with in February Najwa Zebian.
Najwa, yeah.
Yeah, and that was a wonderful opportunity to hear her story. And she shared some of her poetry and some of the things that she's been doing. And this is a kind of a side story, but she gave us some tickets to see her show that was taking place at, where was it, downtown?
Talbot Street Church?
Yeah, Talbot Street Church, was it?
Mm-hmm.
And so Kevin and I went with our spouses, and about a third of the way through in this theater,
Right, yeah, this story.
all of a sudden, there's this bat.
It was batty.
And the bat started flying around, and it got lower and lower.
Yeah, and there's two
and
levels
lower.
in this church. So
Yeah.
there's an upper balcony.
And so all I remember from this was it was a great show, but there were these moments where all of a sudden we were ducking because this bat would come, and at one point it actually went right between the four of us, like where we were standing, right?
Catherine
We're
Ann
sitting,
prayed out
and-
to Jesus.
Yeah, they were screaming, there was praying going on, and so I remember that with Najwa.
And it was ironic because in her show, she keeps coming out with bigger and
With
bigger wings.
yeah,
you know?
yeah. And then the bat was flying around.
So it was
anyway.
like, oh yeah, wings. Okay.
No, but that was a nice visit with her, and she, again, a powerful story. And if you want to hear these again, folks, you can go back and find them on our page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some
They're all
shows
here.
from
They're all
the year,
available
yeah.
still.
So who else jumped out at you from this year?
Well, Fragiscatos.
Oh, yeah?
What was my favorite of that was you trying to say Fragiscatos.
Yeah, I couldn't say
Fragiscatos.
Fragiscatos.
No.
I was just having a day.
It was, and for years, I mean, I've known him for years. I was calling him Fragis Tacos.
Tacos.
And then we had him coming on, so I had to, Peter, sorry about this, but I had to really spend some time practicing. And so then I'd look at the word intently and say, Fragiscatos. There's no tacos on the end, there's catos on the end. Fragiscatos.
I think at the end I was just calling him MP Pete.
And that wasn't good because he's an MP.
Yeah, exactly. He's MP Pete.
I was really moved with him about the story about his grandmother.
Oh, yeah.
And just the love and respect that he had for his grandmother, that beautiful Greek family, and how much of an influence she had because she worked hard around social justice herself, and that seems to have influenced Peter. And so, yeah, I was impressed by that because, sometimes we think about our politicians, we don't necessarily connect them with a faith journey or a faith walk, and they have to represent everybody, and they do, but we should know that sometimes how they make those decisions is often influenced by faith. Oh, Junaid Mirza just popped in from Active Green and Ross.
Yeah, Junaid fixed my car for me.
Did he? Junaid fix your car?
He did a great job. Him and the guys down there,
Yeah. And so Junaid, the nice coffee mugs that we give to guests who come on the show have been supplied by Active Green and Ross and Prime Auto Sales, his new company.
Yep.
And get on down there and see the boys.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. In, I think it was March, we had a visit from someone that is now the primate and head of the Anglican Church of Canada, but at the time, we did not know that would be the case.
She was a candidate then.
She was a candidate then, that's right.
Yeah.
We didn't know how that would turn out, but at the time, our diocesan bishop, Linda Nichols, dropped by the podcast, so that was good to have a chat.
She's up on the poster.
She's on the
our
poster. Yeah,
that's right.
yes. You're not getting a good look. It's a bit shiny on the Facebook, but yeah, she's actually up in the top corner here. We have the primate right on our poster.
What I remember from that conversation was right in the midst of the provincial government making all those changes to the autism
Right.
Yeah.
things, and she shared a story of how that's affected her family because she's got, I think it was a young niece.
Her niece.
Yeah.
That was involved or affected by all that. So it was, again, a great opportunity to hear some of the background story of her life and how that affected her as an individual and a family. So it was a nice kind of human touch on that.
The other interesting conversation, I think, with her, because in fact, she had written a letter to
Yes,
the
she did.
premier.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
she-
I heard
yeah.
about
Yeah.
her.
But the other interesting conversation that we had, and she couldn't have known then if she was going to get elected, but one of the questions we asked was about Lambeth, which is coming up in 2020, and the fact that there's a decision that's come out that said that Kevin Robertson, who's a suffragan bishop in Toronto, will be not permitted to bring his husband, Mohan, to Lambeth with him because they're not accepting gay spouses. And our question to her at the time was, how are you going to respond to that as a diocesan bishop anyway?
Right.
Now, perhaps as primate. I'm not sure just how detailed her answer was, but I'd be curious to know just where she is with that now. She leads the entire church.
Well, yeah, it's a different ballgame now.
Yeah.
in that
So,
sense,
but we continue to hope that the church will come to its senses, and a lot has happened since then too. Of course, General Synod was coming up, and we were talking
Right,
about
yep.
the whole motion that was coming forward around
Same-sex blessings,
same-sex marriage and equal marriage, and and I mean, she went out there obviously hoping, as she articulated at least on our podcast, that would come to fruition. We all know now that things didn't go that way, and we had some stink that got made. I may have been a part of that.
Just a
Not
little bit.
surprised.
And but yeah, so and then eventually here we are. This diocese now, as she sent one of her last acts as bishop was
Right, just before she left, affirming that those parishes and parish councils and those that wanted to move forward that could do that. So,
and now we know in reality that that's happening. We see our
Yeah.
colleagues, and your parish has made that move forward, and
And
this parish has made that move forward. So these are positive developments.
Speaking of synod, the two episode synod podcast thing that we
yeah,
did.
so in May,
Yeah.
we were at the convention center, and instead of doing kind of a regular sit down show, we were just kind of pulling people off the floor.
Yeah, it was
and chatting with a lot
rapid
of people.
fire.
Yeah, that was.
It
fun.
was pretty exciting because we had. I don't think we anticipated the interest.
No.
It may speak more about the disinterest in what was going on inside.
I know. People kept wandering out of the meeting and they hang out with us.
At one point, there's a crowd of 30 people gathered around us doing a
What's going
podcast.
on
We're
down
not used to an audience like this. But it was neat to hear from a variety of the delegates at the synod and their different attitudes about what was going on, and it was fun to see people excited about what we were doing too.
Well, it was, and
Yeah.
it was good to introduce people to people in the diocese, not only clergy, because those are the names you hear all the time, but just people from different parishes, where they were at, and some of their interests, and so maybe I hope we can do that again. That'd be-
Absolutely, and it was fun to introduce them to the podcast.
Oh yeah.
Like it was pretty neat.
The worst part though was building that trivia wheel.
Oh, yeah, that wheel was
Days
incredible.
trying to-
Yeah.
if you
Can't do
haven't
that
heard
now.
folks, go
Facebook
back.
killed
Yeah,
that. now.
Todd
listen.
and his son.
Todd and his son.
Oh yeah,
They
Todd and
were
his son painting
all night.
Yeah,
Yeah, holy
I
cow.
need to say hello to Mary Sander, folks. Mary is one of Catherine Ann's cousins, and she's listening or watching in America.
Wow, we're global.
Yeah, we're global. When I last saw Mary was her wedding, I think, in Chicago or Aurora. So yeah, so I don't know if that's still the area you're in or not, Mary, but hello.
Isn't that where Wayne and Garth were from?
Yeah.
Aurora?
Oh, yeah, it
Yeah,
was. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Stan
Purdy
Mikita's
on,
Donuts?
Garth.
Is that-
Yeah. Stan Mikita's
They're
Donuts.
from Aurora.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Hello, Deanne Vicars. It's good to see you out there.
In July, we went over to the Union Pub and Restaurant and had
Yeah.
a sit down with Michael Corrin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was a great weekend because we were able to set that up that Michael came down and not only did the podcast, but did a talk for us
Yeah.
as well. And
I remember that day because I was working at camp and I had to miss the Monday because I had to get the podcast out so I
Oh.
could go back to camp.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
we'll pay you double for that.
Yeah. Did we ever pay him double for that one?
I think we took him out for lunch.
you
so
did.
so Michael's trip here was actually very good because he was talking about following in the way of Jesus. The Rebel Jesus was the title of his talk. But I thought the conversation we had on the podcast was quite enlightening too because we were in the midst then of all this sort of conversation about the church's attitudes towards LGBTQ community, about how we get engaged in climate crisis, which is happening around us and all that stuff. What's been really interesting, we offer our congratulations, is since we did that podcast, Michael has completed his studies at Trinity. He's now ordained as a priest in the Diocese of Niagara. And it's been fun to watch his articles in Maclean's and the Globe and Mail as a priest.
Yeah. He wrote an interesting one I read just this past week in Maclean's about the reaction of people as he walks around with this collar on, right?
And I didn't get to read that one. So
Okay. Well, it was just the wide array of response that people will give someone in a collar, everything from wanting to sit down and chat with you,
Right.
to giving you looks of
Dirt.
Contempt.
yeah, contempt. Get away from me.
Yeah.
So you get both ends of the scale, but
Yeah.
what a different feel it is. Because I remember too, the first time I put that on and walked around in public.
Right.
It's one thing to walk around your parish or your church with it.
Yeah.
Walking into Canadian Tire
Yeah.
is a whole different
different,
story,
yeah.
right?
Isn't that the truth?
Because I've had experiences where I'll never forget the one at the hospital in Windsor where I walked into the elevator. I was visiting someone, and there's this little Italian lady in there, and I walked in. There was only the two of us in the elevator, and the elevator door closed, and she looked at me and just stared for a few minutes. And said, "Oh, Father." Oh, Father. She's just like bowing, right? And I'm saying, I'm Rob Henderson. This whole bowing thing, this is very uncomfortable. You don't even, so you get that into things, and then other ends of things, again, where like Kevin says, where they kind of just stare at you and roll their eyes. So
Yeah.
anyway, it was a good article in Maclean's, and
Michael's a great guy. He's
Yeah,
doing
he is.
good thing there. But I'm thinking about that story. I was thinking about when I met Group Hug Apparel the first time. Andrew Banner is down in Leamington. Shout out to Andrew and to his mom. They were set up at Windsor Regional selling the T-shirts "Be Strong, Rock On."
Okay.
And I had the night before watched a documentary on Down syndrome and on the whole business of aging around that and so on. And I was up all night. I couldn't sleep. And then I get in the elevator coming down from a visit at the hospital and wear my collar. And I see a poster for this kid named Andrew Banner on Group Hug Apparel selling shirts with proceeds going to the hospital foundation. And just this beautiful looking kid with Downs. And so I said, well, this is a sign. Like, I mean, it literally was a sign because it was
what's the sign? For sale.
and so I go down to see him, and he comes running over, and he looks at me, and he sees the collar, and he goes, "Are you a priest?" And I said, "Yeah." And he turned around, and he looked at his mom, Karen, and he said, "Mom, he's a priest. He's a priest." He said, "I can't believe this, Mom. I met John Daly and a priest in 1 week." That was so funny. Yeah. And then Andrew and I became fast friends. And he said, "Can I be a priest?" And so we got together. We had his favorite thing, which is McChickens. at McDonald's, and we got together with his mom, and we talked about having him out to St. Mark's by the Lake, where I was at the time, and he'd set his shirts up during coffee hour, and he came out, and he put on a robe, and we rehearsed the day before, and he did everything I did that day.
Oh, wow.
He stood right beside me, and if I was doing this with my arms out, he had his arms out. If I was giving a blessing, he gave the blessing. He did the whole thing. Again, I didn't get permission from a bishop for that either, so I don't know if he was actually ordained for the day or not. But man, he had a great day. But it was that business of being seen in the collar, right?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
it has its ups and downs. That's for
it
sure.
does. It does. Hey, and if you can be the police chief for the mayor for a day,
Yeah,
why can't you be your priest?
that's right.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah. Why not? Why not?
I think we need to have Andrew come up and join the podcast. He'd love that one day. We'll have to do that.
Yeah.
So right after Michael Corrin, this wacky priest in London decided it would be a good idea.
Oh, yeah.
Sitting
this
around in a
thing.
bar one night talking about what to do to raise some money for some places in the city. It'd be a good idea to stand at a microphone and speak straight for 55 hours.
Yeah. Whoever would
Wow.
do that?
Where did that come from?
That'd be Kevin. So in August, we spent some time in the podcast talking about the 55 hours for hope, which
Yeah.
at the time we were talking about it still seemed like a distant dream.
Yeah.
Like, is this really going to happen? Is
Yeah.
he really going to do this? How are we going to jump in when he has to stop, or we have to carry him out, or how is he going to get through this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we know that you did. And
We
what
got
a
through
great
it.
success
Yeah.
and wonderful event that was, and the
It's
lives
really
that were
cool.
touched.
Yeah.
Because of that were just amazing. And
I can't believe it happened.
like,
Actually,
you look back on it now, what do you think? Like,
I still can't believe it happened.
Yeah.
Like I cook these things up sometimes, or they come to me, and I don't. Sometimes I need somebody to give me a hard slap.
We tried. Do you remember? We were throwing a whole bunch of other ideas out.
Yeah.
Why don't we put you on the roof for,
Yeah.
for a night? We'll call it the goof on the roof.
the goof on
and
the
you
roof.
can do whatever you want for 12 hours in the middle of the night.
If I had a dime for every time I heard people say to me, 55 hours is a long time.
Yeah.
Like, it's a long time without sleep, But the stories that have come out of it have been really quite incredible. And pardon me, I just, I'm so pleased that it happened, mostly because of the connections that were made and the support that was given by everybody on that committee, Rob included, who did all that work to make it happen. And, I think there are people who become friends out of that'll be friends for years,
Yeah.
So that was really cool. And the people who came and the emails and the phone calls and the stories that I had afterwards, beyond the fact that we raised a ton of money, it was just, I think there was a lot of community in the event.
And it's still talked about. I mean, the stories that
Yeah.
were generated and the relationships that were generated are still touched on now when we sit around and chat about stuff. And
You know what was it?
great.
When I think about it, one of the most interesting memories is at the very end. I was in here in this office. I had just gotten a shower, which felt incredibly good, and I came down, and the media were coming in, and so on, and Catherine Ann was here, and she went out and she came in and she said, and it took me back to a visit we made in May to the mosque.
right.
We went over. We've been on the road a bit, right?
Yeah.
Because we went out to Union Pub, and we were at the Synod, and we were of course up at Crossings at the beginning, and then we went over to the mosque. But that day, the first person here who came up to see it to the end, and be at the door, who wanted to come in and give me an embrace, was Imam Abd al Fatah Tawakkul. I didn't even try to get you to pronounce that.
Oh, no, man. If I can't do Fragiscatos,
Abd al Fatah Tawakkul. And so I will always remember the fact that he was the first guy at the door saying, "No, I need to see you."
and he waited and waited. And
It was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. So they asked you that morning, or when you finished that afternoon, an hour removed from all this, would you do it again?
No.
And I think you said a curse word, and then it followed with the word no.
Yeah.
So here we are, a few months removed.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you now: would you do it again?
No.
No.
Brilliant.
All right, good.
I
Moving on.
will find something equally as ridiculous.
Yeah.
The word I liked was Todd Townsend, now Bishop-elect Todd Townsend.
What a guy.
Todd did church for us that Sunday here. Todd's an honorary assistant here at St. Aidan's.
Yeah.
And I came out to church. I didn't do anything. I just sat there like a moron, which is not hard for me to do. But I sat in a pew, and the word that he used, which was really flattering to me, I thought, was audacity. he said, it takes audacity to decide that you're going to do something like this. And it's not just audacious for the person doing it, but it's audacious for the community and for the people who come alongside, like you folks who were on the committee. And that the nature of what it is to live in the gospel is an audacious thing, because it means having the courage and that sort of craziness in a way to say, you know what, no, we can do this.
And it's very much entering into the unknown.
Yeah.
If we could all know exactly what was going to happen when we engaged with the gospel.
We had no idea.
We'd probably say, no, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, not doing that.
But, oftentimes you do enter into that space. But, what comes out of it, more than not, is the grace and the life and the transformation. And you keep trusting that. That's why you keep stepping into it.
That's right.
It is, right?
Yeah.
So
No, it was fun.
Yeah.
I couldn't say thank you enough to everybody involved in that.
And then speaking of Todd, one of the things we were able to do this year is in November have now Bishop-elect Todd Townsend onto the podcast just like a day or two removed from his election at the cathedral. So we were really fortunate and appreciative that he could take the time to do that with us. So that was a really good chat. And to learn more about his journey to this place in his life that so few get to. And to learn a little bit about his vision for the church. I remember Ian had the best question of the year, like where do you see the church, right?
Yep.
What's your picture?
I thought you were going to talk about the can you only move in diagonals one.
Oh, no.
That was a good question
was
too,
good
but it was sort of predictable.
Yeah, it was predictable.
All right, well then. God.
Like I can't see the future, so I don't know what 2020 is going to be like.
Yeah.
But anyway, to frame that whole conversation around that vision, which in a way, at first I thought, well, that's not fair. He just got elected yesterday.
Yeah.
He's
That's
probably going to have some time to think about it. But to enter into that.
In truth, he's been thinking about it his whole life.
Sure, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
And I just, with that too, I thought, that I still think about, I was fortunate to be his chaplain that day. And when we were waiting for the last result to come in, I think we talked about us on the podcast too. When we were waiting for the last result to come in, I said, we got in, we sat down, and it was fairly obvious what was going to happen. And I said, how are you feeling? And he said, I'm going to feel okay. He said, quite something. He said, I wasn't even going to be a priest.
Exactly. Yeah.
And here he is,
How
Bishop
do you
elect.
get to this?
Yeah. So it was pretty cool.
That was cool.
Yeah.
And then, we've had some other great guests since then. We had a good buddy Matt Elvis Martin on, sharing his story, very powerful story about his battle
really
with
lived,
addiction
Yeah.
and where that's brought him, and some of the grace that he's been able to envelop in others, but also in himself. And so that was a really powerful conversation. Dan Moran a couple of weeks ago. Talking about homelessness in London and setting up the tents in his backyard of his church.
Yeah.
And
Good news since then. That it's all a go.
Yeah.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah. So that was really good too.
Yeah.
Favorite moment or what? You got one?
Moment of the year?
I don't know. Ask Rob first. Let me
Okay.
come back to me.
Rob first. Oh my gosh, this is like favorite Christmas song.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
right? It's hard. There was a lot of good stuff.
I don't know. You know what? I'm going to cheat a little bit and say there's not a moment, but a moment that happens every time we do this podcast is hello. Is that in the midst of conversation, that aha moment that comes every single time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because when we do these podcasts, we don't rehearse them. We don't have scripts.
No.
Oftentimes the guest says yes the day before, and we kind of
Yeah.
rush in and just kind of go for it.
You hear us like ruffling paper. That's actually like all of our episodes. We're just looking at them.
Yeah. But there's always a moment in every conversation that I kind of blank out for a minute. And thank God Kevin can talk. Because you can just go. But I blank out because something's just triggered in me, right?
Yeah.
A word that's said or just a moment
Yeah.
that changes my perspective and transforms my understanding of an issue or something that I hadn't really thought about or engaged in my life.
Yeah.
Dan talking about the moment he was talking about those men in the homeless situation they were in and coming into the tents. And there was a moment where he just paused and realized how fortunate he was to have everything in his life.
Yeah.
And to open up a space for these people to experience even a minutia of that was incredibly powerful. And so that was a moment that that really changed
You're
my
right.
perspective on things.
Yeah.
You know. So anyway, those happen all the
Yeah, I
time.
was
Yeah.
going to say you're right that they seem to happen regularly. That's one of the cool experiences of doing this podcast
Yeah.
is just how much
Yeah.
we gain from
Yeah.
those moments.
Yeah. I thought of one while you were talking. I did think of one. I think for me, it was the knowledge I learned that's like applicable in my sort of day-to-day life of what I want to do. Because of this podcast, I learned how to master, which is like something that is kind of like a witchcraft kind of thing in music.
Witchcraft.
It's like it's
It's where faith intersects at the public
Public
square.
square.
We have a witch here, folks.
Yeah, but wait.
Our guest now is
it's,
a witch.
It's crazy because it's so foreign to me, but it's helped my music, my musical understanding of what happens sort of behind the scenes of some of your favorite songs, which is crazy to say because I released an album this year, which I just remembered. Like, yeah, that's weird.
You did.
I did. But yeah, this podcast helped me sort of, I don't know. It was also great to hear so many different stories from so many different people and so many different sort of walks of life, just to see like what else is going on in other worlds, I guess, even though it's in the same city. So
I think that was going to be mine too, was about the stories. Like I just, for me, like meeting Chris and Michelle, who, you know, are from your parish, and learning about this Yu Hoover Fong syndrome.
Hoover-Fong syndrome, yeah, their
which I
daughter.
didn't know anything about.
Yeah.
I think like when Elsbeth, Nancy's daughter, when Elsbeth Dodman was on here, I just realized how very little I knew about adults living with autism.
the first time or the second time?
Well, she
Both
did
of
it
them?
twice because what happened the first time?
I lost the file. The file wasn't recorded because I lost space on my computer.
Yeah. So we had to do it again.
So
We had to do it
Elizabeth
again.
Elizabeth came in again.
Yeah, Elsbeth. See, that was another one.
So I
there.
did it again.
But Elsbeth, I found that Elsbeth's time with us was for me revelatory
Yeah.
because I had preconceived notions about what an adult
yeah.
with autism is, and she's helped me
Yeah.
take those blinders off. Even just also hearing stories of people like Jerry LaHaye and what he's been through in his life.
Yeah.
And Matt Martin's stories, as you mentioned, and Carol Basadis, who's a pharmacist but who moved here from Egypt, and what she had to do to get sort of here and set up, and Ian's friend Samantha,
Yeah, when Samantha came in. Yeah.
like they all have a story, right?
Yep, Steve Green, Reverend
Yeah,
Steve Green.
Remember Steve
And
coming
who
in?
can forget our time with John Marsh?
John Marsh.
Gandalf.
Yeah.
John is so impassioned.
Yep.
We're, every now and then someone says, "Is John angry?" I'm like, no, that's just his natural disposition. He's not angry. He's just full of vivre.
And our friend Stephen Rogers over at Union,
Yeah.
as well, who has a great story as well. I mean,
And the work that Pam Cullen is doing at
Yeah,
the
the
London,
chaplaincy, yeah.
like that connection that happened between her and Dave at A. Miller George.
right? Yes, it ended up going beyond the podcast. And,
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
They're out
Yeah.
providing coats for kids
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And, like that's really very cool.
Yeah. No, it's great. I mean, this is what we're doing, and we love doing it, and it comes down to we follow this guy who loved to go around telling stories.
Yeah.
And it all started
transform
from-
people's lives, and that's what can come out of that. So,
Yeah, it started from Kevin. You messaged me like late one night while I was half asleep, and you're like, "What do you know about podcasting?" And I was like, "Not much. I can find out though." And then the next day he was like, "Can we run a podcast?" And I was like, "Sure."
Yes, we can.
Yes.
we can.
Again, you have to be audacious.
Yeah.
And I just think we've been given a lot of stories. The other one that just popped in mind is Ken Eastwood, right? And what
Yeah.
he's been through with his son
Yeah.
Duncan.
His
And,
son, do it for Duncan.
like it's just one thing after another. And I just, Kasia, the chronic care nurse, and her sort of being a young millennial with a broad mind, with a lot to think about in terms of spirituality. It's just been, this is our first full year of podcasting, and man, it's been a lot of fun.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to more stories coming our way in 2020.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what's the hope for 2020?
The hope for 2020.
Any new plans?
Oh my gosh, these tough questions.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I'm just so focused on the next 10 days
Yeah.
because there's just so much
Yeah.
going on.
It's true.
But
Yeah.
no, hope is always to find new life, to find ways to transform my life and the lives of community and those in community, and to be a little more, as you say, broad-eyed about what's happening in the world around us.
Yeah.
And to see those things that often we don't, because we do tend to cloister ourselves in. But to keep telling those stories so that we can have a more a holistic picture of our communities and our world. And I think that takes us a long way and moves us closer to the kingdom, closer to the kingdom than we were before.
You have a resolution?
No, I don't do resolutions.
Good for
No,
you.
never.
I am
never.
so
used
glad to hear that.
No, I don't, because I know it's just not reasonable.
No, it's
for me.
ridiculous.
I don't do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
You
What
know.
about you? What's your hope for 2020, buddy? You getting married?
You're getting married?
No, no.
No. What do you want about? I want to release more music because I want to. I want to get a Volkswagen minibus and travel around the East Coast.
Wow.
But this is
Can we paint our pictures on it and go with you?
Yeah,
Well,
that's the goal, right? Yeah,
he wants us to go on the road
because I think it'd be fun.
in a minibus.
You got to be kidding.
Yeah, with our logo on the side and all the sound equipment inside.
It was actually Kevin's idea.
and we'd interview. Yeah, earlier in the year said let's get the minibus.
Yeah.
So if anybody out there wants to sponsor us by purchasing a mobile vehicle,
Yeah.
like a little RV
That we can
some
deck
sort,
out.
Yeah.
that we can trip out.
Yeah.
4 wheels and a
Yeah,
steering wheel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that we can go on the road. And if you've got a decent used thing you don't want anymore, you're gonna give it to us.
Yeah.
We'll make use of it.
Yeah, because not only can we record stories from not just here in London, but from all around the place.
Yeah, exactly.
I could also bring my guitar
Yeah.
and sing.
Do a few
for-
shows.
We could go to
sing
Stan
for-
Makita's in Aurora.
Oh, we could. Yeah, get
Yeah.
a donut.
Yeah,
Officer
so,
Koharski's there.
And
Actually,
we'll stop at the Billy Goat Tavern in Chicago. Cheeseburger. Everybody cheeseburger.
yeah.
Do you do resolutions or what?
No.
Good for
I
you.
don't.
This is what I like to hear.
There we go.
There's I find I make resolutions in the middle of the year, being you know what I want to do? I need to get better at blank. I want to eat healthier. In the middle of July.
me.
I don't know.
I want to eat more terribly. That's my goal this year.
more sugar.
Yeah, but
More sugar.
yeah. So no resolution. Just
What about you?
Well,
Yeah.
my
Hope for 2020.
Tell me.
my hope for 2020 is
better vision.
Yeah, I got better vision, a 2020 vision. My hope for 2020, as it relates to this anyway, is just more time with the two of you. Honestly, I just find that that every time we bring somebody in here and the three of us have a chance to have a conversation, as you said earlier, is revelatory. So I hope that what we do here in this space, and I don't mean this room, but I mean in this virtual space, is broadening a conversation for how people's lives can be transformed and changed. My hope is that somehow somebody out there in the World Wide Web, in the virtual universe, hears something from one of our guests, or heaven forbid, even one of us, that triggers something or allows them to be realized just how beloved they are, and that they're not
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah.
That somebody somewhere will hear and connect and go, you know what, that's going to help me because I'm going to be able to call up somebody
Yeah.
and I'm going to get some help that I needed and I didn't realize I could do that. That's really my hope, is that somehow or another the things that we do, beyond it being a whole ton of fun getting together with the
It's
two
a
of you.
blast.
It's a lot of fun.
It
but
is. It's a nice.
but the real hope is that beyond just how much fun it is, that it's having some sort of positive affect on the world.
Good. Well, we'll look forward to that and more in 2020. And for all of our listeners, we want to thank you
Yes.
Yeah.
for checking us out and taking the time, because we know you have a choice.
That's right.
And you chose to spend some time with the Vicars Crossing.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we appreciate that. Send us your questions, comments, thoughts to us at our email addresses or on our Facebook page or
Yeah.
whatever. Share with your friends, subscribe, and we'll look forward to chatting again in 2020 . All right?
Yes, and a
All
great,
right.
holy, merry, and wonderful Christmas to everybody, and
Happy Festivus.
happy Festivus for the rest of us. Coming up in the new year,
Yeah.
folks, we're going to have some fun with Seinfeld.
We're going to do some Seinfeld trivia.
Yeah.
We're going to get Ian hooked on Seinfeld.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be a thing.
No soup for you, Ian.
He doesn't know what that means.
I know.
I don't get it.
Tempting it a little bit. All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. And I want to say hi again to our sponsors, and thanks to them for their support this year. Aleppo Restaurants on Wonderland Road, A. Miller George Funeral Home, where each life is celebrated, and their sister company, Cremation London and Middlesex, both family owned and operated, and the Anglican churches in London through the Deanery of London, who generously helped support our podcast this year with a donation, and we appreciate that too. So thanks to all of them.
Yeah.
And until we get together next year, my name is Rob Henderson.
I'm Kevin George.
I am Ian.
And guys, remember to always look both ways.
Before you cross the street.
Thank you for listening. Our hosts are Kevin George and Rob Henderson. Our producer and composer is myself, Ian, with original artwork done by Catherine Olenek. If you have any questions or want to know where to find us, tweet us at Vicars Crossing or find us on Facebook at The Vicars Crossing. If you have any other questions about anything heard on this podcast, leave us a comment or look in the description to find out more. Thanks!